Hi there guys, Ken here, your thrifty apprentice, and welcome back to another thrifty review. In today's quick review, we are going to be taking a look at the pretty excellent 36 count of watercolors. I sourced my set of watercolors off of Amazon. So before we unbox the paints and take a look at everything, let's talk about Pretty Excellent. So Mailing Pretty Excellent Watercolors, or the Pretty Excellent brand, is a division of Owens Art. Owens Art is manufactured by Paul Ruben's company. So I had to do a little research. Of course, when I do any review research, I always do it after I've used the product and formulated my own opinion. But I did want to get a little bit more background on the paints in order to share with you guys. So I did find out that these are made by Paul Rubens. This is a budget slash student brand that I'm assuming is produced in the same factory as the professional Paul Ruben paints. Of course, these are half pans. There's 36 of them. And they are distributed by Owens Art. And now Owens Art has other products. They make another set of watercolors known as the Owens watercolors. I'm going to try to get those and give those a try just so I can do a comparison of those against the Pretty Excellent. And I'm also going to be swatching and reviewing and testing the Paul Rubens 24 half pan set coming up really soon. So eventually we'll have a video coming up on the comparison between all three of those brands, since they are produced and made alongside each other. So back to the Pretty Excellent. It comes in a cardboard box. This is actually pretty nice. I like this packaging. It's simple, straightforward, and very pretty. I love the artwork on the front. You flip the back the package over to the back, and you're gonna again get Pretty Excellent 36. Now there is some words here, but it's in Chinese. I don't understand any of it. The other information that I can read lets you know that they do carry the EN 71-33 and the ASTMD 4236 regulation stamps. Owens Art Materials Company, as I did share with you guys already. There's a UPC code here, and then there is a swatch chart on the back of the box to show you what the paints look like. There is a stock number, or the color number for each one of the paints, and then there's the name of the paints in English, and then there's a star rating for light fastness. Now down here in the very corner, I don't know if you guys can see that, is a chart for the light fastness. Now, of course, I don't know anything about Owens Art. I do know that Paul Rubens itself is a pretty reputable company. And I'm assuming that they pull the information for the light fastness from the fact that they already have those formulas for these based on Paul Rubens. So it tells you that it has a 3-star rating system, 1, 2, and 3 stars. 3 stars is absolutely permanent, 2 stars is moderately durable, and 1 star is fugitive. So 3 being the best, 1 being the least of them. None of the paints in this set are 1 star. You have all 2 and 3 star paint sets. So according to them and their information, this is supposed to be a pretty light fast set of paints. So let's open up the box here and take a look at what we have. They come in this beautiful, beautiful turquoise chili tin. I really do love it. It has the parrot logo, Mailing, on the front. If you flip the tin over on the back, of course, it has the standard holding ring in case you are painting on the go. Although this palette is, you know, the pretty standard 24 half pan palette set, so I wouldn't necessarily be taking anything with this, anything of this size with me out painting. Probably something a little bit smaller. You just pop the lid open here. That lid is pretty secure, so you'll know that. You do see already from the top of the tin that you have 4 mixing wells when you open the tin up. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that the tin is stained. So bear that in mind. The paints are going to stain the tin, or I'm not sure if it's the finishing on the tin that allows it to stain, but I'll say that the paints are pretty transparent. They are not full of optical brighteners or fillers. I'll go ahead and throw that out there. So I'm thinking it's just the tin, but that doesn't affect the performance of the mixing of any of the paints or anything like that. So on the inside, you have this little brochure, and it shows you the paints that come in each of the color sets here. You have the 36 and 24. So we have the 36 count, and I'm assuming there's a 24 count set, which I haven't seen that set. But I'm going to assume that that's available. Flipping it over. Now, I can't read any of this, but I will tell you, I did discover, I went to the Paul Ruben's website and noticed that this little pamphlet with these same little scientists were on the pamphlet for the professional Paul Ruben sets. So that's just another indicator that these are, you know, produced by Paul Rubens and made alongside the professional set. It comes with a swatch chart. I'm not sure what type of watercolor paper this is, but it is definitely watercolor paper. And it worked really well for the swatches. You know, it gives you the color number for each of the paints. It gives you the color name for each of the paints. Now, they didn't put the light fastness rating on here. So you can like take a pen and write it in beside each color just so you'll have it in reference, simply because this is going to be kept on the inside of your tin. And of course, there's no information on the inside of the tin about the paints. Let's take a look here. It comes with a little kind of plastic covering on it to protect the paints. And the paints themselves come in 24 sections of one molded tray. So this will remove. So water brush, just want to throw that in there. It does come with a water brush. Let's take a look at that right quick. So just a standard water brush. I have 1,000,001 of these things. So yeah, there's that. And I'm pretty sure that if you're anybody with a bunch of art supplies, you probably have 1,000,001 of them too. So the paints themselves are in this little molded tray. Now, this is one thing right away that I didn't care for too much. I really do wish the paints had been in individual half pans, just so that when you wanted to, you could kind of remove some of those from the complete set and only paint with limited colors, especially if you're trying to do something like learn color mixing. So that's something to definitely think about. These are not going to be removable half pans. You're not going to be able to take them out. Now, I will say that each of these trays is the equivalent of a half pan. Now, I saw some reviews and even some blogs that said that they thought that the paint that were in the molded trays was a little bit less paint than a half pan. But I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I've actually pulled one of these out, and I'm not going to do it now, but they're glued down on the inside, and that paint is just as much, probably exactly the same amount, based on my just eyeball measurement, that you would get in a normal half pan. But again, they're in this one molded tray. That's as much as, you know, that's as good as it gets. So if you should run out of a color, not that they sell them open stock, but like if you wanted to replace one of these colors with, say, a professional brand of paint to kind of fill in once you run out of a particular color, it's not like you have an individual half pan to do that. You're going to have to, you know, put that paint into this particular molded tray. So that was one particular drawback. Other than that, I didn't see any qualms with the packaging. If you remove this, you do have more mixing area on the bottom. Of course, the part where the ring is raised, so you know not to mix there, but you have a couple of additional wells here. So there's actually a lot of mixing room in this palette. Now, I haven't mixed on the bottom of this. I typically just use the top. But I do think it's important that people know that in most of these tins, if you actually remove the tray or remove the pan, especially the budget tins, there is additional mixing areas. So that's a really good thing. I'm just going to pop that back in there. Okay, so the paints are extruded, you know, they are machine cut and placed. They're not liquid or hand poured, but they are really deep, really deep. Okay, so the thing about paints when they are in their dry half pan form, if they're really deep and you can't look at that color and tell what it is, that's a really good indication that the paints are going to be really transparent. And when I tell you that these paints did not disappoint in any shape, form, or fashion, so that's the physicalities of the paints. Let me go ahead and close that up. You know, really cute set, really cute tin. Other than the fact that, you know, the half pans aren't individualized, I didn't see any problem with the packaging or with how the paints are particularly laid out. Even the color arrangement that they laid out in, you know, it's pretty okay. It's not a huge deal. They have all of the colors kind of grouped together. You got the earth tones, your greens, your blues, your yellow tones running into your oranges and reds. And I would probably have switched it up and put my violets behind my blues, but that's just me. I'd switch the place of my greens and my violets if I was going to lay it out. But, you know, that's not a big deal. This is just my own personal thing. So let's take a look at the swatching and start talking about the performance of these paints. So the very first thing I did was to swatch the paints out. I went back to my regular swatch paper. Okay, let me see if I can get that all in the screen. There we go. I went back to my regular swatch paper for this particular test. This is the Canson XL 140-pound cold pressed acid-free watercolor paper that the paints are swatched on. The first thing I did was I swatched them out in really watery, big, juicy layers because I wanted to see if any of the paints were going to granulate. I actually need to go back and add the star rating to my swatch chart. And that's something that you guys can do for quick reference too. I do definitely suggest that. So I swatched them out in really watery layers. I did not go back and do a glaze on these, and here's why. From the minute I swatched them out, I did lay down a black marker line in order to do an opacity test. I noticed that by the time I got to the end of swatching these, every single one of these paints were like super transparent. I mean, you have a little bit of sedimentation here on the line from the cobalt blue, and that's more than likely because it's probably a mixture. It's probably made up of the PB29, which is the ultramarine blue, and some type of white extender. So, and because of that, you get a little bit of sedimentation on the black line. You're going to get the same thing here with the light sky blue again, because I do believe that this is possibly the ultramarine pigment with even more white than the cobalt blue has in it. Now, this is me just guessing. I don't know this for sure. I don't know the formulations of these paints. And of course, they're not giving that type of information out on the package or on the website. But I really do feel, you know, that those three are probably the same pigment. These two, that one with some extenders and some whites added to it. Other than that, there were no other ones. The yellow ochre, you got a little bit of sedimentation on that line, but you would expect that from yellow ochre. Is typically a little bit more opaque than most colors. So you typically, if it's a, you know, made from a traditional yellow ochre pigment, then more than likely you are going to get some sedimentation. Then there is also a little bit here with the yellow green, but I mean a very little bit. And I think, again, it's because it probably has a filler in it or a white pigment in it in order to extend it. I do not feel that the paints have any optical brighteners in it. And, you know, if you don't know what an optical brightener is, that's typically something, or, you know, like an extender, a filler that they add to budget priced paints or budget brand paints in order to stretch the pigment, so it'll make it a little bit cheaper for the manufacturer, right? So when that happens, you typically get your pans and they look really bright and really saturated. You can look at every color and it looks so different. And those are typically a little bit more opaque because they have those fillers and those extenders in it. Well, these are sort of the opposite. I don't feel that there are many extenders or a lot of, I know there are some, because I know that there's some white added to some of these pigments. However, there is not enough to cause any type of harm or any type of damage to the transparency of the paints. Really loved that fact. That's absolutely amazing. And it's a dead giveaway because, again, you can't look at these paints and just tell what the colors are. You have to swatch them out. So without a shadow of a doubt, you know, if you decide to get these paints, please swatch them out. Swatch them out on the little chart inside. Make your own on your own paper if you want to. Make you a big swatch sheet so that you will definitely be able to distinguish those colors, because no fillers, no brighteners, truly transparent colors. What else did I love about these paints? Okay, so they're definitely not dye-based. These are definitely a pigment-based paint. The ultramarine blue pigment really granulates a lot, and there are going to be a lot of these paints, especially in the blue, green, and earth tone, basically starting here at like the light sky blue all the way to the very end of the palette, the burnt brown. You're going to get granulation constantly. And I do believe because a lot of these may be mixed and made up of that ultramarine blue pigment. Now, again, this is just me speculating based on my use of the paints and the experience that I've had with them, and just the correlation of how they seem to work together in the palette with each other. So you're going to get a lot of granulation. I really wish that they made these in tubes and that the formulation was the same, because there are a lot of these colors that do granulate, and I do plan on eventually putting together a completely granulating pan from paints I already have. So it would have been nice to be able to pull those tubes out of this set to add to that new set that I'm going to make. Nevertheless, that doesn't matter. That doesn't take away from the fact that these were some beautiful performing paints. They gave really great texture, just all around performed well in a lot of different paint settings on different types of paper. I was really impressed. Now, the white isn't really that much to hoo-ha about. Probably more of a mixing white used to add body, more opacity to each of the paints, especially with them being so transparent. So that white would help to turn these into almost the perfect gouache type paint, because you can add, they're so transparent that adding that white, I don't feel would actually muddy up the color. It would actually, you know, I think it would still be a really pretty vibrant color. There's not a lot of shift from wet to dry. They maintain their punch, they maintain their saturation. Guys, listen, I was going crazy using these paints. So let's look at some of the color mixing. Now, I did a sort of non-traditional color mixing thing here, just because I wanted to use up some of the extra space on the bottom of this paper without, you know, using any other. So here we have mixtures of orange, which I made with the number 346, which is the lemon yellow, and the 205, which is the carmine. So the lemon yellow and the carmine gave me a really light, pretty orange, sort of like a fruit orange. And then the 109, which was the cad yellow, and 103, which was the cad red, gave me a more punchy, saturated orange, something you would sort of see like on a pumpkin. So the colors right away were mixing really well, really cleanly. Even if these are multi-pigmented, it wouldn't matter because the mixes that they made were still really clean and transparent. I think that is amazing. Guys, listen, for the price that these paints cost, I was pretty blown away from the very beginning. I mean, from the swatching phase, definitely into the color mixing phase. Here you get some really earthy greens that are not already included in the color when you're mixing. And here I'm using a split primary in order to mix these colors, so do keep that in mind. The violets, now this one kind of faded a little bit. I used the cad red and the cobalt blue. And maybe I should have, now here I used the ultramarine blue in the carmine. I should have used the cad red in the ultramarine blue here, and I feel like that would have given me a much more punchier, saturated violet than I got. And of course, this one had a huge shift, mainly because it did have that cobalt blue. So maybe the mixtures that have cobalt blue in it, if you don't use enough of the paint, will shift. So that's something to keep in mind, but that's not a hair compared to all of the positives that I've experienced from these paints. So here I mixed a gray, and then of course you can add more blue to it to get it closer to black. Did a little salt test. The paints take really well to salt. You can get them really juicy and watery. And another great thing is that they reactivate really, really well. You do not need to, I did not pre-spray these paints in any of the paintings that I'm going to show you that I did with these. I mean, I thought that was absolutely amazing. Just take a wet brush and touch it to the little half pans, and bam, there you have color. So the black, pretty opaque. As you can see, it kind of covered up the marker line there. So get a pretty, and that's sort of what you're looking for with the black paint in any set. You're looking for it to be pretty opaque and help kind of be stark, So the first thing I did was a little test painting with the paints here on the mixing paper. Now, I made a little mistake, disregard that. I should have taken that stream all the way back. I don't know what I was thinking, but nevertheless, paints performed really well. Really love the saturation and color. Again, love the way I was able to layer these because of their transparency, and you're still able to sort of see some of the color that's underneath. They did really well with mixing on the paper. In a lot of these situations, I would just kind of put in the main wash really wet and then just drip the additional color in. That worked really, really well, excuse me, here with the green, where I dropped the cad yellow into, well, actually that was the lemon yellow. Kind of dropped it into those trees and into the background. I used the credit card scraper with them. They seem to work pretty decently with that, which most paints do. That's more about the paper than the paints. So for all intents purposes, out the gate, from packaging to the way the paints looked, to the preliminary swatching and the things I was able to discover from those, I was really impressed with these paints. Let's take a look at some of the things that I've done with them. Let's start here. This is my Strathmore 400 series, 140-pound paper. This is some really great paper. I've told you guys about this in the past. This is what I use as a medium in between student grade and professional grade. It's probably just a smidget of a step down from a professional grade 100% cotton paper. So let's take a look at, so the first thing I did with these paints was a replica of an painting that I had in the living room, sort of anyway. I just kind of want to play with them, see what they would look like with doing, how they would work with doing floors. Here, I had a lot of fun with this. I did a little pen work, kind of an ink and wash feel to it. Paints were really transparent. I was able to do a lot of layering here. Now, I didn't do a lift test, and here's the thing. I will go ahead and tell you the paints will lift if you need them to. You can scrub back to the white of the paper, except for those pigments or those colors that have pigments that were meant to stain. So, traditionally, the colors that stain the paper. So, but other than that, the other colors would lift back really well if I needed them to. They don't get muddy. I love that. Of course, there's no chalkiness because the paints are super transparent. You're gonna hear me say that a million times, because they have an amazing flow. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, some of these paints flow really, really nicely. Now, not every single one of them, mind you, but some of them have a really beautiful flow. That Madder Red had a really beautiful flow to it that I could recall. The Violet Red had a really beautiful flow to it. A lot of the earth tone colors flow pretty well. So I didn't experience any of them that just didn't have any flow at all. They all had moderate to, nice flow to them. So that was a really great thing about them. So here we have paints that have all of these, you know, great attributes, and they cost so little. I was so amazed. I'm just taking a look over my notes here to see if I left anything out before I move to wrapping this on up. A couple other things I've done. Here is a painting that was done just recently. This is a mixed media. Actually, this is a mixture of the Pretty Excellent watercolor paints and the Color Noir Mandula watercolor pencil. Yes, I think I'm saying that right. So there's a tutorial for this one on the channel. I don't know if it's going to be out before or after this review goes up, but yeah, there will be not a tutorial but a painting demo, because I don't really consider what I do tutorials. So do keep a lookout for that. Here the paints perform really, really well. Again, they work really well with those pencils. They play well with other products, which is always a quality that you're looking for in everything that you buy. You want to be able to use it and for it to fill in the gaps of the products that you already have. So really loved it here. Love the granulation that ultramarine blue gave me from those paints. The granulation that you sort of get in the grassy area here, based on the fact that that green was actually mixed from the ultramarine, from the cobalt, which has the ultramarine pigment in it. So very nice painting. Again, here are these trees were done with the watercolor pencils. So really nice play with the paints. Really enjoyed doing that. And two additional things I want to show you guys right quick before I wrap this up. I bought this Master's Touch sketchbook. It's a leather bound with a band on it. It has handmade paper in it. Now, this is a sketchbook, but of course, you know me, I'm going to try water products on everything. And from the very first page, I didn't even try to sketch anything. I immediately went into, you know, playing around with the paints. So decided to do this daisy, was able to keep the white of the paper. The background came out really nice and textured and saturated. Was able to gray colors down when I needed to, was able to punch colors up when I needed to. The flow that went into this, and this is not a watercolor paper, you know, this is a sketchbook paper. Now, of course, it didn't flow through on the back. And this is handmade. It doesn't work well with tape, and that's more of an attribute of this particular sketchbook, which I may review. I don't normally review paper, but this may be one that I do review simply because it's so unique. I think this one came out really nice. Here I used some Master's Touch fine liners in order to, because this was done in October. It was, you know, me playing around with Inktober. Really love that. And then of course there's this one, and if you've been, you know, if you follow the Thrifty Apprentice Facebook page or Instagram, or if you're in any of the watercolor groups that I'm in, or even if you check out the community section of the YouTube channel, I posted this. I posted both of these, and both of these were done with the Pretty Excellent watercolors. And when I tell you, I am so stinking impressed with these paints. It is absolutely ridiculous. I've been doing watercolor. It started as a hobby, and now it has honestly become a second profession for me. I've been doing this for 4, almost 5 years now. I really love what I do. I've used a lot of paints. Since I've started this channel, I've used a lot of paints and reviewed a lot of paints. These really take the cake for me. Now, of course, no paint is perfect. Every paint has its drawback, right? You know, every paint has something that might not be the best about it. Number one, we did already talk about the fact that it's not individualized half pans. To me, that's a drawback. I would really prefer them be in individual pans. Not every single color granulate, but enough of them do. So I guess that's not a huge drawback. And they all perform pretty much the same. The paints, I'm sorry, they all don't perform the same. So, you know, these paints are going to have a lot of personality and individuality about them, which is what you look for in a watercolor set. However, if you're a beginner, you may be looking for something a little bit more uniform. With that said, those things that I just named as cons are just like literally little bitty drops in a huge bucket of water, because the pros definitely outweigh the cons by a ball field. So you can currently source these paints on Amazon for $20.99. I do believe there is a 15% coupon right now for them. You can typically find deals on them and get them for $20 or less. I'll be sure to link I'll be sure to include, a link for the paints on Amazon in the video description. And guys, I will go ahead and disclose that the Amazon links that I use are affiliate links. That's not anything that I try to hide. It's just a way that I try to make a little bit of money in order to continue to support this crazy art habit so that I can test and review these products for you guys. Now, by no means is there any pressure on you to use that link. I just feel like I should disclose that to you guys. Okay, so back to these paints for $20. If you can get them for $20, that's a steal. If you can get them for less, because the other day I honestly saw them for $17.99. So but they're $20.99 with a 15% coupon. So again, that's going to drop the price to below $20. That is a steal for these paints. It is ridiculous that these paints are so good and so cheaply priced. After using them and testing them on several different paintings and playing with them in a mixed media format, I have no doubt that they are made by a professional company, and it's probably one of the best student budget grade paints I have used in my art history. There's only one other set that student budget brand that I feel like is amazingly priced for the quality that you get with those paints, and that is the Artwell tube set. I've heard different things about their half pan set, but that Artwell tube set is a really amazing paint for the price. The quality is absolutely outstanding, and I will say that the Maybelline Pretty Excellent watercolors step up on the pedestal right next to those for me. This is, so yes, I recommend the paints. This is a wonderful set for beginners. It's a wonderful set for people who are in the intermediate portion of their career. This is a wonderful set even for artists. I think everybody and anybody could enjoy these. And here's the thing, considering what you pay for most beginner sets out there now and the quality that those sets are, a lot of them not being light fast, not having pigment information, being opaque, full of optical brighteners and fillers. There's no way you can go wrong with such a transparent paint for $20 or less. This would make an excellent gift. It would make excellent stocking stuffer. I recommend this to artists of all levels. I can't say enough good things about it. I'm just amazed. These are definitely going to stay out on my desk. They are not going in a box or anything. I'm going to use these on a very constant basis. And they're so much more handy than my Artwell palette, which I'm going to break back out anyway. So there, guys, there you have it. Hopefully you found that information informative and helpful. If you did, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe. And after you subscribe, hit that bell so you'll know when we have more reviews and awesome content coming up on the channel. Use the comment section. Let me know, have you used these paints? What do you think of them? Have you heard about them? What do you think of them? Does anybody know where I can find the pigment information on the paints? Because I would love to know that. It comes with the light fast included. So definitely, share your thoughts with me in the comment section. Don't forget to head over to the Thrifty Apprentice Facebook page and Instagram page. Follow and like us there. And remember, as I tell you guys, share the video. Share the video, guys. Please share the video. Sharing is caring. It's going to help the channel grow. And as I tell you at the end of every single video, my friends, just keep painting.